It's been getting warmer, and we have spring thoughts, so it's a good thing.
That's cool.
Yeah. So,
I like your painting behind you of the U.S. It's nice.
thank you, man. Yeah, I'm a visual artist. So that's one of my originals.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's
Yeah.
different. It took me a
Thank you.
minute to figure it out, and I realized it's the U.S. It's the U.S. within the U.S.
Yes, yes. It's kind of the melting pot of the colors that go into our
Yeah.
tapestry. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
And there's no red, white, or there's red, but there's no white and blue in it. So therefore, it's an interesting juxtaposition. Well, there's blue around the outside, which is the ocean. I see that bit, but it's not typically like red, white, blue. So it's
yeah.
different.
It's just kind of a vibrant, like modernization of it, so
Yeah.
to speak.
Super
So,
cool.
yeah.
Love
Well,
it.
man, I'm a tech guy by day, so I'm fascinated by your level of tech and
Painting.
everything that the transformation from acting to tech and all of that. So I'm looking to traverse it. But I want to begin with 5 years ago, we were figuring this pandemic out.
Yeah.
How much of living through that time reshaped your focus in your life and what you do now?
It's a very good question. I actually ended my run on Young and the Restless. I did what, 1,100 and something episodes, and I ended it actually as the pandemic hit. Um, let's just call it COVID. We won't call it anyway.
Yeah.
Um, Everyone's got their theories about COVID now, and it's all coming out in the wash.
Yeah.
Um, but that being said, I moved. We were building Disco at. We started building Disco at the end of 2018, November. So we were ready to launch January 2020. In the version in 2020 had augmented reality in it. So basically, you could hold up your phone and look around, and whatever you saw through your camera, you would see. But then you would have all these profiles that would appear in on the screen in AR, and you could touch them and see the person's profile and communicate and connect with them. And we had a very strong use case. Um, Ironically, 2020 was also coinciding with the whole social justice movement that kicked off, and we talked to a couple of different people about disco being used for that sort of purpose. If people were protesting, they could have their augmented reality profile wherever they walked, it would follow them, and who is this, who is that, what's their social cause, whatever. But augmented realities didn't pop the way that it was meant to. It had a couple of moments in the sun. Snapchat was coming alive with the whole AR thing. Apple was coming out with its eye vision glasses soon, and Ray-Ban and Facebook had the idea of doing the Ray-Ban glasses where you can see things, but the public never really took to it. And you always need like a Gen Z or a Gen Alpha version of young kids to go, this is what's cool. This is what we want to use. And they were firmly entrenched in other technologies. So we were at a place where we thought that we were going to reinvent, and I don't say this in a bold way, but we thought we were going to reinvent the way that people would communicate with the people around them because it was a new technology. We thought, we actually hosted world's first AR fan event because Genoa City, which is the city in Young and the Restless where the show is set, it's also a real city in Wisconsin. That's where it's based on. So we hosted a fan event where fans could enter Genoa City into disco, and it would GPS transport you to that location. And then you'd be sitting where you are right now, looking around your room, and everyone who dropped into that location, you would see in your room with you, and you'd be able to touch their profile. And if you go to disco.co, it's dysko.co, there's a video in there that shows you at Venice Beach, walking around Venice Beach, what the experience is like. Um, so for us, it was this. When I say us, I mean the company. And for me, it was this moment of hope and possibility and expectation and discovery. And what was interesting is when the AR didn't fly the way it was meant to, we were left having to rethink the company, rethink the technology, etc. But at the core function of my transference out of acting into tech, it's still at the end of the day, it's the same set of value or core principles and values, which is the ability to connect with strangers, help strangers connect with one another, and streamline the flow of human connectivity and interaction. And this stemmed back to when we were doing fan events and just personal appearances when I was doing Young and the Restless. And you'd be at a convention somewhere, or you'd be at an appearance, and people would be in a line to come and meet you. And they get to the front of the line, and they're with a group of people, and they'd say, these girls I just met, were because of you. We were standing in line and we realized, oh my God, we're in line to see Daniel. We're in line because of the Young and the Restless event. And then you start chatting and you realize we also love this and we love these movies and we love these hobbies and we also have this many kids and we also like, the things we're into are the same. And we realized not just the show, but we have all this extra stuff in common. So we started sort of at Disco thinking, how do we then find a way to bring people together that have these commonalities that otherwise would never meet? Because everything in technology at the moment in social media is very much content, like videos, swipe, TikTok, Instagram, swipe, Twitter, read some post, reply. It's very impersonal.
Yeah.
Um, and a lot of the stuff you'll see, people liking your content, following you, you'll never know, you'll never meet. So the question is, how do you create a product that plugs the hole and solves the pain point of allowing strangers to connect? But in that connection, there's a purpose, and it's not just collating and curating, warm bodies to amass followers. And you'll see a lot of social media apps will be like follow for follow. So you'll follow someone hoping they follow you back. But it's pointless.
Yeah.
It doesn't bring you value. You don't know they ever followed you. You never followed them. And most times you'll never even see their content. So why are we doing it? Well, we do it because as humans, we want to value something that makes us feel special. We want to feel included. We want to feel as if we are part of a community and a tribe, because that's basically at the core of our function, is that we're not lone wolves, we're not snow leopards, we're a species that needs human interaction and tribe mentalities. Which, going back to sports, which we were talking about before at the start of this, is, sports, and basically football in particular, is is an expansion upon tribal warfare that stemmed back thousands of years, where your village would go and fight the other village. So it's like your city goes to another city and you do battle. The Aztecs had it where the winning team, losing team was all executed. So it's some stem of that. Our force comes to your town and we declare war, but no one's sacrificed at the end of it. So there's always this need to create this human interaction with people. So for us, for me, the transition out of acting into tech was seamless in that I understood that it's the same use case.
Yeah.
But the most difficult part was being taken seriously, because most people who leave acting, consider most actors out there, open their mouths about too many things they shouldn't have an opinion on in public, and they try and expunge their beliefs on people. And it's kind of like I don't conform to that ideology. I don't think people should use the celebrity status in order to kind of push narratives. So it was difficult from that point of view to be taken seriously. But over the years that have passed, I've been able to transition into more of a tech person and to be taken seriously more as a tech person. So in a nutshell, same core business model we're trying to solve, but I think time has given me the ability to be in a position now where I can really move this product the way it needs to be moved, because I'll be taken seriously now.
So take me back to when you were a kid. Was your dream to always be into acting? Did you have a tech bug that you were going after? How did all that transpire?
Yeah, I'd always want to be an entrepreneur.
Okay.
Always. I remember in eighth grade, there was a little shop on the corner of near where I lived, and you could buy like a big canister of like lollipops, and they were like 5 cents a lollipop, and there was like 100 in there. So I'd spend $5, and I'd go to school with the thing. I'd sell them for 10 cents,
Yeah.
right? And I remember I got called into the headmaster's office, the principal's office one day, and they basically dressed me down for doing this. And I said to the guy, and I went to a very strict school, private school, and very strict. And I said to the guy, and you should never speak back to, the principal or anyone like that. And I said to him, I said, you know what, I'm a little disappointed, because I would have thought that, yes, yes, this is something you look down upon. I get that. But a little encouragement to say, hey, listen, I really appreciate your entrepreneurial spirit. These are the values we want to teach you at this school. So when you leave and move on and you make your mark in the world, you say you learn this sort of entrepreneurial spirit and thing from this school, but you didn't do that. And it's like, instead, you were wrong. That was bad. That was bad. Don't do that again or you'll be in trouble. And I mean, his reaction wasn't positive to the statement, and I realized, my entrepreneurial spirit started young, but there's a conformity that takes place in the majority of entrepreneurs, where this is the paradigm. This is the way you have to slot into it. If you step outside that paradigm, it's more difficult. So as an entrepreneur, the hard thing as I sort of moving through my life, and I ultimately took on acting because acting gave me the ability to not lock myself down to one thing.
Yeah.
As an actor, you can play multiple different roles. And it wasn't for me an escapism from like me or having to express myself or like be like, I need to let people understand this about me. It's not that dramatic. It's all more about, well, I could be a cop, I could be a doctor, I could be a lawyer, I could be a fighter pilot. You know what I mean? All these different things you could do. Maybe that's an option in my life because then I can be more than just one thing. Because I went to business school and I went to university to study economics, and I dropped out with 6 months to go, and I kind of got to this place where I kind of didn't want to do just the one thing, and I think it kind of gave me the courage to eventually realize that everything in life is it's what you make of it.
Yeah.
You know, don't fall into a rut and just grind it out daily. Like when you become an actor, it's very, very difficult to get auditions. And then when you get an audition, you get judged and you're constantly graded and rated. And then you don't get the job. And then you don't get the job. And then you get another audition and it just compounds and your self-esteem gets broken down. And your own set of values get questioned, and then you start to wonder, are you doing the right thing? Is this worth it? Like, what's my future going to be? Years have passed by, I can't get a job. Am I meant to do this? What point do I stop doing this? And that's the same thing with entrepreneurialism, you know. So I think the acting side gave me the tenacity and the understanding that, okay, it's solvable. But I think the biggest thing you learn from everything, and when all things are said and done, that timing is king.
Yeah.
know, you think that, it's going to happen now, like I was just talking about before with Disco in 2020. You think it's going to happen now. The timing makes sense, but that's not the timing in the grand scheme of things. And same thing with acting. You get the role you're meant to play when you're meant to play it. You get the job you're meant to get when you're meant to get it. Is that because you finally learned the lessons you're meant to learn and the universe unlocks those opportunities? I don't know, maybe. Or is it because basically that part was finally written that somebody then raised the money for, that they then got the project greenlit, and then they got the casting, then you got the agent. Then, I mean, you think about the parts and the little micro parts that go into you getting a job as an actor. It's not easy because there's so many steps that can even come before you having the opportunity to read for that role.
Yeah.
Same thing with entrepreneurialism. But at least entrepreneurialism, I say this, you have more control over it
Yeah.
because I can choose to create a product. I have the ability to say, is this the right product to create right now?
Yeah.
If so, how then, once I've created this product, do I market this product to get to the core demographic that will utilize the product? So at least you have that on your side. Acting, you have none of that. It's like Russian roulette.
Absolutely. Who's been your favorite tech mind or tech entrepreneur?
Um, it's funny. Before I got into tech entrepreneurs, there was a guy called
Yeah.
Jim Rohn, and my dad found a Jim Rohn tape, cassette, and he gave it to me, and I don't think he knew what it was, but it said like motivation on it, and he found it, so he just gave it to me, and that one really rung true with me, and I think it's one of Jim Rohn's big, 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 big things he talks about is, you can't plant seeds in the winter.
Yeah.
A, because you can't dig the ground up in Kansas, but other than that, they're going to die. So once again, it harkens back to the concept that everything is timing. We live in a world constrained by the rules of physics and the rules and the rules of time and timing. So that kind of has always been my mindset that everything is timing. Then when it gets to entrepreneurialism, look, I mean, there are so many people that have created technology that basically changed the world. I mean, everyone used to talk about Steve Jobs and what Steve Jobs did. But what's funny about great entrepreneurs and tech entrepreneurs, the majority of them, other than talking about like a Bill Gates or uh, Pavel Durov. Pavel Durov is one of my favorite entrepreneurs. He created Telegram.
Yeah.
1 billion, 1 billion users, coded the whole thing himself. Before that, he created the Facebook of Russia called VK, created the whole thing himself with his brother. And what was interesting is that, you can talk about a Steve Jobs or an Elon Musk, great visionaries, great determination. And Elon used to code. Steve never coded though. Steve was a marketer. He understood product and he understood the human desire for product. And I think from that POV, it's like Steve broke the mold when it came to how do you create something that's beautiful and sell it to a public that will consume it. I think Elon basically kind of got into that marketing mentality too, where I think, look, I don't think, do I think Elon Musk thinks we're really going to go to Mars? I don't think at the end of the day, I don't think in his lifetime or maybe even the next lifetime that it's something that we're really going to do. We may put a ship there and there may be a couple of people who decide to sacrifice themselves to go there to be the first.
Yeah.
Do they think they'll come back? I think they've got not much of a good chance, because the math involved in getting to Mars and getting back and the probability of things going wrong is pretty high. But Elon is a phenomenal marketeer. So for him, it's always going to be his calling card of like, you know, Mars, Mars, Mars. So it gets people to listen. Um, so I think, I mean, I will always probably go then in that case to Pavel Dubrov because I think Pavel did it all himself.
Yeah.
He's like the Bo Jackson of entrepreneurialism, I
Yeah.
suppose. He'd do
Yeah.
it all. The
Yeah.
best to ever do it. Anything
So
he touched was just, Bo Jackson was just a freak of everything that I don't think we've ever seen before. You know?
I still can't believe I was a teenager and I used to watch him play. I used to
Oh,
go out there and it was just like, what is going on? Like
yeah.
he'd climb up the back wall and snap bats like they were toothpicks. I mean, he was doing things that were hard.
Snap the bat on his helmet.
Yeah, right. I know.
you know.
He,
And
he
you hear
was.
Deion Sanders, probably one of the greatest natural athletes to ever do any sport. He talks about greatest athlete of all time, and everyone says, Dion, you tell us because like you did ball and you played ball, and then Michael Jordan, you baseball, and this. They'd all say, oh, Bo Jackson, Bo Jackson, Bo Jackson. There's
Uh-huh.
no question to them. It's like because he was elite at everything he
Yeah.
did. So I think for me, when you talk about entrepreneurialism, it's like, are you a marketeer? I see you look on Instagram, you see all these guys sitting there and like my course did this and I'll teach you how to do that and da 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 da. I'm like, okay, well, if you were making that much money doing what you do, would you be selling a course?
Yeah.
Would you? No, you wouldn't.
Yeah.
You wouldn't. No one would.
Yeah.
Big hedge fund managers aren't selling courses on how to run a hedge fund. They're running a hedge fund,
Uh-huh.
you
Yeah.
know. So I think a lot of it's smoke and mirrors. So I think what you see on social media when it comes to entrepreneurs, basically you got to take it with a grain of salt. But um, Dubrov's interesting. He doesn't own any possessions because he believes possessions, and it's not even it's not even some. He just thinks that possessions cause you to take your eye off the prize, like having yachts and super homes and mansions and planes and whatnot. He's committed to his craft of making Telegram free speech greatest encrypted messaging app in the world. So that's what he's committed to. And I kind of applaud someone who's so committed to a cause like that.
So where are you at with AI? The one thing about AI is there's all this talk about how it can go south. The Arthur C. Clarke kind of notion
Yeah, yeah,
of
yeah, yeah,
2001. What
yeah.
what kind of thoughts do you have about where human beings are going to take this?
I think it will end up like in a Terminator sort of mentality. And I'll tell you why, because I think humanity at the core of itself, look, you look at the George Soros, all right, and the majority of people who really have studied George Soros know he's not a good human being. There's two use cases for that statement, or 2 points of proving it. Number one, in what, 85, 86, he did a 60 Minutes Australia interview where Mike Munro, the interviewer, asked him about his life during World War II. And the story was is that George Soros knew where some Jewish people were hiding, and he would tell the German soldiers. He'd give them up. And Mike Munro asked him, why would you do that when you were a Jew, knowing what was going to happen to them? And Suros, and you can Google this, Google George Suros 60 Minutes Australia interview and then look at it. And he said basically it was survival. I knew that if I did that, I would live. So when you've got that mentality that you'll do whatever it takes to live, okay, which is one thing, and you have no morals, you have no moral compass because he's giving up his own people, knowing what's going to happen to them. It doesn't even matter if they're his own people. He's giving up humans that are trying to survive under this persecution, right? Then I saw another interview with him around the same time where they talked about how in Southeast Asia he was backing certain political movements. And the words out of his mouth were, all I care about is making money. I don't care about the social consequences of it. So when you have people like that that basically only want power and money, they will use whatever they have at their disposal to get power and money. And if it's AI, they'll use AI. Um, do I think that AI on its own is going to go there without human interactions, like a HAL thing from 2001 when it locks the spaceship and says, "Oh, you guys are out of here"? If you make it smart enough to make those decisions, ultimately it can.
Yeah.
Because if it's smart enough to know it can be dismantled and it can make adjustments for it, why won't it? So it's either going to be by human design or by AI's own design.
Yeah.
AI by its own design, I think is going to take a long time because you're talking about, you know, I don't, it's no, right now AI just searches the internet and finds the best answer to things. It's not really AI.
Yeah.
But I think if you allow humans to get involved in AI, where you get to say to a certain political party that has power, use AI to search for every single person that's ever said anything negative against it, and then track those people in a way whereby we can produce some use case that they've violated some law, then at that point, deplatform them and financially freeze their assets, then AI is used for evil, but it's used and designed by a human in order to facilitate that evil. So I think it's two different scenarios that can play out. Ultimately, I think progress allows that to be potential, or that to have potential, and ultimately, I think that humans, by design, some humans will always. I mean, imagine if Hitler had AI.
Yeah.
Imagine, you know, imagine if Stalin had AI, Pol Pot, all these people. If you gave someone who had megalomaniac or was a megalomaniac, right? Someone who had megalomaniac desires, and you gave them something that would allow them to pursue their megalomania in a way that they could take over more efficiently what their dreams are, then why would they not use it?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? And
Yeah.
then basically we become the Hungry Games,
Uh-huh.
where the little man, you imagine if we get rid of a cash-based society, and there are banks right now in Australia, you'll see all these videos on Instagram where people go into a bank with cash and they say, we don't take that. And I've seen the US too. Certain banks of America won't take cash.
Yeah.
You're the Bank of America and you won't let someone deposit cash into your bank.
Uh-huh.
Why? Why?
Right.
I'll tell you why. Cash can't be tracked. Cash can't be taxed. Cash is the lawless currency.
Yeah.
And if you live on cash, I can still walk into the store and buy things. But if everything's a digital currency and you can basically turn around and freeze my funds, like Trudeau did to the truckers in Canada,
Yeah.
oh, and also to like a grandma gives $20 so they can buy some fuel for their heaters for their cabs. All of a sudden, you freeze her assets. What is that? That's Orwellian, isn't it?
Yeah.
You live in a democracy and you're allowing you. I don't care whether or not you supported COVID or not, or whether you believed it was fake or you thought it was real. You were pro-vax, anti-vax, whatever. Couldn't care less. All I care about is to think that you would support a government freezing the funds of someone for having, in a democracy, which is meant to be based upon the principles of free speech, the audacity to exercise their right of free speech or free action in a democracy, whether you agree with it or you don't.
Sure.
And when we end up in a land like that, you soon, very soon, become Spain in 1937. You become Germany in 1933. You become Russia in 1921. You become all these countries because it always splits into right wing, left wing, no middle. And when you obliterate the middle and you force people to go to two separate ends of the spectrum, it's like two football teams
Yeah.
running together, colliding.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
Yeah. Absolutely. So let me ask you this. Of everything that you've accomplished as an entrepreneur, as an actor, everything you've done, what are you the proudest of?
Part of my family.
Yeah.
Because it's funny when you're young, you got ambitions. When you have kids, you have ambitions, and you kind of say to yourself, like, I've got to make time for my kids. I've got to put my kids in above all of that, and it's hard, especially like for me. My kids were teenagers, young teenagers, when I left Y&R and started transitioning full time in entrepreneurial. And you don't have the money you used to have. You don't have the money coming in. You've got to start changing the way you think about money. You got to start spending more time on entrepreneurial, less time with your kids. But then you start to realize at the end of the day, what's more important, which goes back to Elon Musk again, where he's got 13 kids. It seems more of a science experiment than a family because he's what, like five baby mamas.
Yeah.
Um, but for me, outside of my family, my kids, I would probably say it's tough. It's tough because to 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 not say acting means that the very fans that enabled me to have my career at what Young and the Restless for almost 15 years and Beastmaster prior to that, which was like a 3 year show. And, without those fans, I wouldn't be able to be sitting here having these conversations with you. So principally, it's always going to be the fandom of the person who enabled me to find my entrepreneurial spirit again.
Yeah.
So acting then would probably usurp the entrepreneurial side, but I think for me and what I'm trying to accomplish right now for humanity and what I believe disco can do for humanity, I think that entrepreneurialism and my entrepreneurial side may then ultimately usurp the acting side. But I think entrepreneurialism and disco has to reach the point where the fruits super exceed the labor for that to happen.
So for something a little bit more all-encompassing, let me ask you this. Everyone has a perception of you from the acting side, the entrepreneur side, family, friends, but
Mm.
you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Cool. I'm a man who's always looking to be a better version of myself every day. I'm a searcher, I'm a seeker. Um, I believe that we're here for a very short amount of time on this planet. And during this time, you have to question, why are you here? There's that saying like, what is it? There's two moments in a man's life that define him. One, when it was what's the first one is when he realizes he was born or something, and then the second one is when he realizes why he was born or why he's here.
Yeah.
I think for me it comes down to um, mortality is real, and am I a person who every day before I leave this earth can maybe leave behind something that's better than when I first arrived here, especially for my kids. When you have kids, everything changes. Do you have kids?
Yes. Yeah. I totally get that.
Yeah, and that's why, look, not getting political, but the majority of these people who basically want to burn America to the ground don't have kids,
No.
don't want to have kids, couldn't raise kids if they tried. They can barely get their own, affairs in order. And to think that governments place weight and currency in these people's opinions, only doing it so they become a vote, so they can allow the politician to keep power, goes back to the George Soros thing, I think.
Yeah. It certainly does.
Yeah.
So Disco's wonderful, man. I've really dug this. So is it's all out on all platforms?
Not yet, not yet. Basically, what we did is we pulled it, and then we had to rebuild it. And we had to strip the AR out of it, and then we took
Gotcha.
AR out and we put AI in.
Okay.
Um, Disco is interesting because Disco has allowed us now with AI to open up doors and lead to possibilities we couldn't have done before. Um, Principally, the core function of Disco now, we're hoping within the next 2 weeks, the MVP will be in iOS App Store and Play Store. Basically, what Disco does now with AI, it allows you to very quickly create your profile. You choose from 100 work tags and 100 social tags that kind of define you and what you're into. Just click, 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 tap, 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 boom. Then you then can walk around Kansas City, for example, set your radius at say zero point 0.2 mile or 10 miles. And as you walk around, if you come within the radius proximity of somebody else and you're passing, you get notified there's someone in this radius that has X amount of tags in common with you. So you could have all the sports you're into, all the work things, everything. Then once you get notified, then you use AI to say, here are all the tags that I have in common. So I might say, for example, I've got 8 tags in common with you, and it's like, podcasts, Kansas City Royals, Chiefs, Bo Jackson, Iron Man,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Elon Musk, Tesla. And then I could say, okay, I want to talk to you about Bo Jackson, because anyone who's into Bo Jackson truly gets baseball or whatever it is. I also want to talk about podcasting and I want to talk about this and that. And then the AI will start a conversation with your Disco profile. And in the first version of Disco, we didn't have that capacity because we didn't have the AI to do it. And basically, the thing we were finding is that people were connecting, but they weren't communicating. because principally one of the things with Dysko, we have 12 colleges that are onboarding Dysko, from Syracuse to Kentucky University to Southern University and a bunch of other ones. And a lot of the deans and the mental health counseling officers said the problem in colleges and universities now in the US is 35% of all kids suffer from social anxiety disorder, meaning that they get anxiety in a social situation, so they turtle up. I have a 16-year-old and a 19-year-old, so I've seen this in their generation. I've seen it firsthand.
Yeah.
And what we realized is that these colleges were saying to us is that this will allow kids, when they get on campus, put the classes they're in, the things they're into, be there, instantly connect with people around them in a campus of thousands of kids that are all strangers, to find their people
Yeah.
that click with them, and then allowing AI to communicate, break the ice, and then you've got past that. So that use case is extremely strong. Convention side, we have convention companies that are going to MVP, trial, beta test the MVP, because what they want to do is streamline the technology, or use the technology to streamline conventions. Because one of the things at Dysko we wanted to do that is nowhere else, and no other technology does it, it allows you to sit right now in Kansas where you are, and you want to attend a convention at the Las Vegas Convention Center. You're not going to have to fly there anymore.
Yeah.
You take your profile, you enter Las Vegas Convention Center, it drops you in right there.
Wow.
And then everyone who's physically there in person, or just like you, is dropped in, it starts showing you all the people and what you have in common with them. Tags, common tags, common tags. You go, okay, this person has something in common with me that I want to talk about. I can streamline my business, let the AI take over, start communicating. At the same time, you can use that same product, because we let you attend 10 locations in one sitting. So if there's 10 conventions around the world, you can attend 10 conventions while you hang out with your kids and play with your kids. So for us in Dysko, AI has unlocked that. And for me, that's where I see Dysko going, the ability to bring people together with something that really matters, and basically never be a stranger again, and facilitate deal flow. So very, very long answer.
No, that's wonderful. That's excellent. And I know that we're running low on time here, so I will have all these links in the show notes. This has been fascinating. Daniel, thank you so much. Thank you for your story and time. It's been wonderful, man.
It's been wonderful. Thanks very much, mate. You take care.
You too. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Hello, friends. Joe Dimino here. I just wanted to let you know that after 30 years or so, I have finally released my first book of poetry through the mighty Spartan Press here in Kansas City, Missouri. As the creator and host of both Neon Jazz Radio and the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino podcast, along with being a visual artist, I'm ready to embark on a new adventure and want you to be a part of it. You can get a copy online via Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and actually on the streets in Kansas City at the great Prospero's bookstore off 39th Street. You can also visit joedimino.com for links to the book, to more poetry, and everything in my world, including paintings. Thanks for all of the love and support over the years, and please dig the words.